Did Mazda drop the ball with the redesigned CX-5? I have some areas of concern, and even Toyota's not safe from making mistakes. I already stressed my issues with the RAV4, the pros and the cons, and the new CX-5, it's pretty, but there's a boatload of cons that are accompanying this new redesign. And I'm going to be awfully hard on this CX-5 redesign because when I reviewed the CX-5 last year, it ranked as high as you can. It made it I think it made it in the top 5 vehicles I reviewed in 2024. That's how good the CX-5 currently is. It's not perfect, but it does just about everything really well, if not exceptionally well. Like, Mazda didn't need to change much. Unfortunately, they changed too much. So let's start with the powertrain. I think the powertrain is an obvious one, right? The hybrid's not launching until 2027 sometime. We have no details on the hybrid. We just know that it's going to offer a new gasoline engine, the SkyActiv Z, and it'll be unique compared to Toyota's hybrids. And how much Toyota was involved with the building of this Mazda hybrid, I have no idea. It could be not at all. It could be massively. And while we haven't had a hybrid stateside, I know there's mild hybrids that exist on the CX-5, other places. But in the United States, we never saw a mild hybrid. We've had the 2.5-liter naturally aspirated engine for a decade, it seems like. And then we've also had a 2.5-liter turbo engine. All CX-5s are all-wheel drive. And the 6-speed auto has been very happily accepted, I would say, from the consumer base as well as car reviewers. I love the 6-speed auto in there. It's a little bit heavy. It's not the fastest, but man, is it fun. I like how it shifts. And it's decisive. There's no CVT buzziness going around. So thankfully that 6-speed auto stuck around and the base 2.5 engine, but that's it. The turbo's gone stateside, and that is a huge miss. That's something that really set the CX-5 apart and elevated it into a luxury category in many ways that left many of its direct competitors in the dust. So it didn't have a hybrid. So Mazda's like, well, what do we do well? Okay, here's our turbo SkyActiv G 2.5 liter with 250 horsepower or so and 320 pound-feet of torque. The engine's fantastic, and it really helps Mazda stand apart and allows it to be a luxury vehicle fighter without having to spend luxury vehicle prices. Now that engine is gone. When I did my research, the take rate for the turbo is around 25%, at least in my area. And I think I widened that out to the rest of the country. Out of all the CX-5s available, 20 to 25% of them are the turbos. They're going to be alienating quite a bit of customers, at least for the first year and a half before that hybrid comes out. That doesn't mean those people who have turbos will want the hybrid. All right, it's just going to give them a higher output engine to go to with better fuel economy, which I'm excited for. I'm really excited for the hybrid. But again, it's just sad that it's not launching with the redesigned CX-5 and the turbo is nowhere to be found. Snap them up while you can, or just go buy a CX-50. And the new CX-5, like I said, it's gorgeous. They did something really right with the proportions. They made it bigger. And you might be saying, Kirk, why do I want something bigger? Blah, blah, blah. It just depends on your market. You have the CX-60, you have something bigger. The new CX-5 is pretty much the same size as the CX-60, but the CX-5 now directly competes against things in the US market like the RAV4, the CR-V, the Tucson, which I'm reviewing this week. There's tons of space in that vehicle. Okay, so comparing previous generation, and this is before the refresh, when the refresh brought a bigger screen up top, which also offers touch capacity, I think, with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. All right, so let's compare these two interiors. Let's start with the steering wheel. I love the physical buttons on the Mazda steering wheel. It's simple, it's effective. I think they changed it a little bit. I don't remember stitching on this part of the steering wheel. Maybe I'm looking at a different market. I just don't. This is a 2019. All right, but I don't remember stitching in there. Okay, so they got rid of that, maybe with the refresh, but of course here on the redesign, total redesign, the buttons are being replaced kind of with like a button pad. These do move, as far as I'm aware. They move when you press it, but the problem with this, there's not enough topography on the button face here. Yes, the center button is inset, and then that might be enough that you don't need to look at your buttons, but these were so much better because they actually moved, all right? Volume up, volume down. Here, I don't know. It just seems like fixing something that isn't broken. And that's going to be a reoccurring theme as we tackle this vehicle today. I'm not going to go over the MID. I don't have too many issues about that. This is the big issue. We're going to this touchscreen that is enormous. I already forgot how big it is. I think it's 15 inches. All right. The refresh models, I think, have a 10-inch screen up here. The problem is all these incredible buttons, from the heated steering wheel to the heated seats to all these physical buttons and ventilated seats, all these buttons here and dials for climate control have all been replaced and tucked into the touchscreen. Now, they do stay full-time at the bottom of this touchscreen. The only physical buttons you have is front defrost and rear defrost. That's a deal breaker. I'm sorry. This is not necessarily a deal breaker for me, but I know for so many people out there, it's going to drive them mad. And I've been reviewing some cars lately with some massive touchscreens like the GMC Terrain and even the GMC Yukon. They have enormous touchscreens. And when you have such big touchscreens, it's hard to stabilize your hand and hit the right icon. All right. So if there's a button in the middle of this screen, good luck hitting that while you're driving. Meanwhile, the previous CX-5s, this doesn't show it on this image. Let me pull up the other image. Here we go. The previous CX-5s had the volume knob here and the rotary dial to control the software and your presets and other things. Once you get used to the rotary dial, it's actually quite pleasant to use, and you don't have to move around. You don't have to fumble around while you're driving to try to hit something on the screen. So the rotary dial is gone after about a decade of its use in Mazda vehicles. It's going to be phased out now. And the volume knob, what the heck? This is a big one for me. If I don't have a volume knob, I'm constantly annoyed. I love volume knobs. They make me happy. I don't like adjusting volume on the steering wheel because it's too nitpicky. I can't quickly turn it up. I can't quickly turn it down. It's hard to fine tune the right volume that you want as soon as possible. Yes, the volume is somewhere on here. I think it's maybe here. Again, this is all the resolution that they give us. Maybe it's over here. I think it's maybe this up and down arrow because this looks like it's forward and back. And then maybe you have your voice assistant here. Not quite sure because I haven't spent time in this vehicle yet, but nothing replaces a volume knob. Like a volume scroll wheel comes close, but look at how ergonomical this was. Okay, left hand on the steering wheel, right hand on the shifter, and when you need to move things around, here's your rotary dial to do so. And then right off the rotary dial, you don't have to look. You just move your hand just slightly to the volume knob. It's great once you get used to it. It takes a little bit to get used to, but it's fantastic. No volume knob. That's a deal breaker for me. I can if the auto climate control is good, I can probably live with it being in the touchscreen. It's not ideal, far from ideal, and it is irksome and sometimes dangerous. But a no volume knob drives me absolutely wild. All right. They kept the traditional shifter, which is weird, right? Everything's been baked in the touchscreen, but they keep the traditional shifter. Maybe because it looks good. It does look good. And I feel like Mazda just went the screen, this big of a screen doesn't look great. But I think they chose aesthetics over everything else here. Okay, they liked the look of the traditional shifter, so they kept it, even though they didn't need to. All right, more than likely, they didn't need to. They could have just put it into like a column shifter or something like the Hyundai Tucson does. All right, no physical climate control whatsoever other than some defrost. And like something that at least Toyota, when they're getting rid of the physical climate control buttons on like a Lexus or their new EVs like the BZ and the BZ Woodland, at least those have rotary dials for temperature. And if it has good auto, you just crank the temperature real quickly instead of having to fumbling and accurately press the small touchscreen buttons while you're moving in the cabin, right? Because you're going to have issues there, and it's not good. At least Toyota has rotary dials. Speaking of Toyota, before I roast the CX-5 by itself, what about the RAV4? Well, the RAV4 hasn't gone I don't know. I don't even know what to call this. Complete disconnect. Mazda's Jimba Itai is a core design philosophy, translating to horse and rider is one. That's what makes driving Mazdas so pleasant. You don't have, and Hondas are very much like this too. Toyotas to an extent, except Toyotas aren't very fun to drive most of the time. You're one with the vehicle. You know where everything is. The placement's just right. The feedback's just right. And then they go completely away from horse and rider is one to like spaceship and occupant is independent. I don't know if that made sense, but let's see if Toyota has been able to stick around some of the things I've been complaining about in this Mazda. Starting with the steering wheel, Toyota stuck with real physical buttons here. Something that Mazda went cutesy with and decided to fix what isn't broken. All right, their steering wheels previously were absolutely fine. Toyota here maybe even improved upon the steering wheel of the RAV4. The screen. This is the bigger screen, I believe, in the RAV4. Look how much smaller it is compared to the massive 15-inch screen in the CX-5 now. And it has a volume knob. And guess what? Although the climate control is baked in, look, I have complete direct access to the fans here. Okay. I also have temperature up and down buttons instead of a touch panel, or not even touch panel, touch capacitive, touch screen climate control. So Toyota, even though they might be running very similar software, my sources are saying that the base software here, even though this is Google built in, the base software is going to be very similar to Toyota's. To my understanding, this is running Toyota's Arene software. But look how much bigger the icons here on the Toyota are. So not only is it a smaller screen, the icons are bigger. And look, there's a shelf here at the bottom to stabilize your hand on the Toyota. And when you have a smaller screen as well, you can stabilize on the bezels to touch the touch buttons on the screen. Here, it's just, the screen's just too big. Sorry, Mazda, you went too far in so many regards. The vents are about in the same spot between the two. Ideally, they would be higher to cool you off better, but this is what many manufacturers are settling on because they're prioritizing the touchscreen experience and having the touchscreen close to the line of sight of the driver. So as a result, climate control vents are getting pushed down in modern cars. All right. Well, Toyota also has more buttons here. They have a physical drive mode button, which kind of makes me angry because they don't have physical fan control button, but it's not that big of a deal. At least I have a volume knob on the Toyota. All right. USB-Cs are very superficial. Where in the Mazda, I don't even know where they're at. They're hidden somewhere. They're probably hidden somewhere in a strange place for aesthetic reasons only. All right. Now, Toyota got rid of the shifter, and I'm okay with it because it's hybrid only. And it does declutter some things, especially when you're reaching for your cups here. Having this little shifter is great. Yeah, I think Toyota overall smokes the interior here for practicality, even though the Toyota has taken maybe a step back in things like climate control, physical climate control being somewhat taken away from us. But not to the extent that Mazda did. Shoot, I'm trying to find the cup holders, and I look here. This looks like maybe the phone charger area on the Mazda. And as I zoom back in here, oh, they're way back here. They're behind the shifter, which is not good. This is not a good spot for cup holders because the shifter gets in the way. You might not be able to have too tall of a drink because of this enclosing part above it. Where the Toyota is completely out in the open, completely breathable. All right. Now you're going to have to navigate around the shifter, and then you might not be able to bring your tall Stanley or Yeti or whatever because this is kind of too tucked away into a cave, essentially. And then the phone charger is back here, and that might be okay, honestly. But I think Toyota's placement of the phone charger might be a little bit better. And you might be able to put your phones up here as well if you're not charging it down below. So overall, the Toyota did most things right here on the new RAV4. And the CX-5, other than aesthetics, they took all the ergonomic advantages that the Mazda used to have as we look here, and they got rid of them. They got rid of them. At least I'm not going to be blinded on the new Mazda by all the reflective trim around the shifter, the glossy black around the shifter, the metallic on the dash, the metallic finishes on the steering wheel. Thankfully, that's all gone. Oh, that's a huge sigh of relief. That's a big win. But outside of that, we've taken a huge functionality step back, and it's going to be a more, in theory, it depends on the person. Maybe you do all your stuff on the steering wheel volume, and maybe you just press climate control auto and you forget about it. And maybe you like having a huge screen for your Apple Maps or whatever. Well, then this vehicle is going to be great for you. Unless you want a hybrid, because then you're going to have to wait. Or unless you want turbo power, because it's no longer offered. So Mazda has done amazing things with the new CX-5. It's pretty. It's bigger, has better access to the second row for parents and kids. It has more cargo. I feel like we're losing the Jinba Itai. I feel like we're losing Mazda's soul here. And this is very worrisome for me because the CX-5 is kind of like the new Mazda going forward. I bet all their vehicles that get redesigned after this, at least in the near future, you're going to be ditching these physical climate controls that we've come to know and love, ditching the rotary dial, which that's a hate or love it thing. Now you don't have the option. You're just tied into touchscreen only. And yeah, you're better off going with the smaller touchscreen. This is the bigger of the two. Get this smaller touchscreen. It'll look like the one that we just saw in the Toyota here. Again, this is the smaller touchscreen, essentially in the Mazda. And that's the one you want to be getting because it's going to provide a better experience. And hey, maybe there's a chance that even the smaller screen could offer some of these buttons from this Toyota setup. Physical up and down, volume knob, but I don't want to get my hopes up. I'll just buy a RAV4, have better power with this 5th gen hybrid, have far better fuel efficiency as well, and have a better ergonomic experience. And the new Woodland RAV4, that's a take my money sort of vehicle. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know if you share my passion and opinion. And if you don't, great. Let me know in the comments. Are you floored with the new Mazda CX-5? I think it's going to do well for them. But Mazda said they were listening to customers, and I feel like they were only listening out of one ear. They made it bigger. That's great. They took the turbo away and they took our controls away. And I no longer have the connection with the horse that I love to drive. I'll see you guys in the comments. Have a great day and peace.